This is the Bluff Town Council regular meeting. It is 4:02. Roll call.
Linda Sosa.
Luanne Hook. Jennifer Davila.
Britt Hornsby.
Ann Leppanen.
Erin Nelson, serving as town manager.
The first item is the approval of the Bluff Town Council meeting minutes from December 17th, 2024. Did everyone receive them? And are there any changes, modifications, comments?
Just had one question because I feel like I've seen Jared Beard's name spelled differently. Is it spelled correctly in there? Or is it?
What, Jared Beards? Jared?
No,
Beard.
it's right. Okay. I thought that I had remembered seeing it with an I someplace.
Well, that could be Baird.
Okay. That's what, okay.
So, yeah, I think you're right.
Good.
Motion to approve Bluff Town Council meeting minutes from December 17th, 2024.
A second?
If there's no other discussion, then everyone in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then it's unanimous. This is the public comment. There will be a 3-minute time limit for anyone who wants to make a public comment. If you exceed the 3-minute time limit, then meeting controller will mute you and put your hand up in the, put your name in the chat box or raise the hand icon if you wish to make a public comment. I will note that there is no public attendance at this point. Erin, are there any public comments?
I don't currently see anyone, and I did have the chat box open, which is always questionable. So I think we're okay. Should be able to move on.
Then we'll move on to unfinished business. Because this is a new calendar year, we need to take care of some housekeeping business. So the first thing is discussion and vote on Bluff Town Council Mayor Pro Tem, a town clerk, and the treasurer. Could you vote on? Okay.
1 year off.
All right, so starting with the Bluff Town Council Mayor Pro Tem. Britt's been doing a really good job. Does anyone want to make a nomination other than Britt?
I nominate Britt to continue as pro tem.
I'll second.
Is there any other nomination? And Britt, are you willing to continue?
Totally.
All right, then all in favor of Britt Hornsby remaining as Mayor Pro Tem, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
And anyone opposed? All right, so then town clerk, that's been Linda for the last 7 years.
And I am willing to continue.
Does anyone want to make a nomination?
I second.
Unless Lou wants it.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? All right, then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Then, Linda, this is your year again. And then Jen Davila has been serving as treasurer. Does anyone want to make a nomination?
Still doing it?
I'm fine, yes. Yeah.
You're doing a good job.
I nominate Jim for treasurer.
Second.
Any other nominations? Then all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Well, one more year. Here we go. This is a 52-week countdown. I promise I won't do it every week. 54. So number 2, discussion of conflict of interest forms. We do these every year, and Erin has sent them out in the packet. I was going back and forth with how we did this. So at our work session next week, I'm trying to coordinate our work session with planning and zoning so that we can get Chris Mack and Ann. So if we do a joint work session, if you haven't already gone to a notary, Marcia Haydenfeld will be available to notarize and just kind of do a mass notary and build a town. Or if you want to go to Marcia individually because you've got yours done and you want to get it it goes to Linda, correct? Or does So it goes to Linda Sosa. We have until the end of the month to do it. There's no reason you have to do it in mass, but it does kind of help Marcia keep track and be able to just bill us once. Or you can go to her and she'll send a bill for your individual. Or then there's the bank or St. Juan Credit Union. Then you could bring a receipt in and be reimbursed. But I'm just going to bring mine to the work session and have mine notarized that way.
I took mine to the bank, to the credit union, and if you have an account, it's free.
Okay. So I think the main,
Science is that way too. It's free if you're an account holder, but it's not here in town, of course.
I think the main thing is if you have to pay for it, regardless of where it is, we'll reimburse you.
Yeah, but it's nice that Marcia will just come and do them. It's nice to have her in town.
Yeah, I had thought about having her here tonight, and then I realized the first year we did it that way, and nobody really had given any thought to what they had to put on there. So you've got a week or 2 or 3 here to get it done. Just be sure everybody has theirs in by the 31st to Linda. With the conflict of interest forms, there was something interesting in the San Juan County Commission meeting today. And I went up for the swearing in of Lori Mon and the other elected officials, but particularly that one. And on there, and they may have been doing this the last few months, I just haven't looked at it, but they actually ask at the start of the meeting for everyone on the commission to disclose their conflict of interest on the agenda. So they do it, it's a line item now for them to do it. I mean, it's certainly something that we might want to talk about. I don't know. I don't believe it's required by Open and Public Meeting Act, as long as you disclose it in the meeting if you have a conflict. I liked that it was there because it did kind of generate people's thinking about what's on the agenda. On the other hand, we're so close together that we all know everybody's conflicts of interest, and I don't know that we need to do it that way, but I thought it was interesting. On number 3, discussion of required and discretionary training. The required one is Open and Public Meeting Act for all of us and planning and zoning. And then discretionary, and for Linda, it's GRAMA as well, right, Linda?
I don't know if this is grammar, because the certification I do it in, I think, August. So I don't really know what that is.
Okay. So on the discretionary training, I'll go back to the Open and Public Meeting Act. Monday, I went online to look at what's being offered by Utah League of Cities and Towns, and I couldn't see that anything was being offered on that specifically, but I do know that there's training, and so I'll do some more looking so that you can just go online and do it. If we had all wanted to go up to the commission meeting today, they were doing theirs at the end of the meeting, but I didn't stay for that.
I know the state auditor's office usually offers good training courses, and they have like a regular Open and Public Meetings Act one. So if Utah League of Cities and Towns doesn't have a good one this year, state auditor's office would be a good option.
And sometimes it's available, but they haven't changed the date yet. So if you take it, it still counts as the new year.
I'll dig around and see what there is. In terms of discretionary training, the Utah Local Government Trust has revamped their training programs, and they've added quite a few. And what I'd really like to do is have everybody take a look at that link and see if there's some things, like for Britt and Jen, for the previous council, what we took was one on discrimination and one on sexual harassment, because those are the two biggest things that the insurers seem to think we can get into trouble on. But I can send out the link. I'm the administrator for that right now, although it might be that down the road, the better, because now that we have a town manager, it might be that the administrator of it should be the manager and not the mayor. But just a little reminder that if we throw out some trainings and you say you took it, but you didn't take it, it shows up as you didn't take it. And so there's no requirement that anyone take these, but some of them, well, they're all really useful. But I think particularly refreshing our memory on sexual harassment and discrimination, equal treatment are really good ones. So I'll try to get something out in the next week for the work session with some links.
And then for planning and zoning, we're going to ask them to also do OPMA training. For larger municipalities, all planning and zoning officers are required to do X number of like land use specific training a year. But I think it would be beneficial for us to assign them some training as well, whether it be an hour or two of like land use specific things, and probably not all the same training, so they can kind of have like a broad swath of land use stuff. But since we're a smaller municipality, it's not legally required, but I think it's still a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think, everybody's been really good about jumping on trainings and webinars, but I do think there are enough changes and that we should be looking at some of these. So hopefully in the next day or two, I'll know whether Chris is available on either the 14th or the 16th. If he isn't available for our work session on the 14th, does anyone have a conflict with being able to be on planning and zonings on the 16th? And we would, whoever would attend, we wouldn't need to be there through the whole planning and zoning work session. It would be specifically for the questions. What I asked planning and zoning to do is to send me their questions so that we're not giving Chris several lists that are all similar and spending time and attorney's fees on those. So if you can think of anything specifically for Chris that you want to talk about, if you can send me an email or tell me today what your questions are, then I'll put the list together so I can send one list to him versus multiple. It doesn't mean questions won't come up while we're talking with him, but it would help, I think, narrow it down. So if you don't have anything at the top of your head right now, you can just shoot me an email, and maybe by Friday at the end of the day, I'll try to send out a reminder. All right, if there's nothing else on that, then number 4 is an update on the status of the road survey and engineering. And I'm hoping Michael Leppanen is on.
Look like he was.
Yep.
There he is.
There he is. So just by way of updating, yesterday, Michael Leppanen, Luanne, and I met by Zoom and went over these couple of things. And so, Michael, do you want to provide the information about the road survey?
Yeah, we're talking about the revised UDOT map.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the questions that came up yesterday, Luanne raised, was if you look at, do you guys have the map?
Let me share it.
Yeah, it'll take just a second. The one that you sent over, or the one that Michael sent over?
I would send the one that has the correct, or the edits on it. It was on the one drive.
No, let's start with
Because it has
what.
the map.
No, let's start with the map that the surveyor worked off of, and then go to the edits that Luanne is requesting. So I think people need to know what the surveyor did.
Right, it's all on the one that's got the edits, so you can either, jump from one screen to the next, or whatever.
Okay. So the map that that I submitted to you all, Luanne raised a question about 6 West, the quantity on the paved surfaces. And just to clarify it, 4 West and 5 West has a larger quantity of paved surfaces because it includes 4 West and 5 West south and north of the highway. And 6 West, the only paved portion is south of the highway. So that's the clarification on that. Other than that, I recommend that this map be accepted and the quantities that's listed in the manifest be accepted. We did lose a net loss of a half a mile from the previous submittal to UDOT, and and that was because on Nielsen Avenue, a half a mile of that street was turned over to Billy Gaines for his operation over there by the county before the town incorporated, but the county never reduced that street. And the other portion we lost was on Third West or Third West, the portion that goes beyond the gate. Was included in the original submittal, and that was removed because it's no longer a town road. So we we added some, we changed some of the streets to pave, and so the net loss, as I said, is a half a mile, which I don't think will be consequential when in the disbursement from UDOT. So I recommend that that the mayor sign off on it, and we submit it to UDOT.
And does everybody know what the sign off looks like? It's in that packet and it lists, let's see if I can find mine.
So that if you scroll up there, Erin, I think you'll see the list.
Thanks.
Yeah, and then up above that is where the miles are.
Yeah, there's a UDOT submittal form for the update of Class B or C mileage data. And if I understood Michael correctly, that and the mileage was completed by Brad Bunker, the surveyor that we hired to do this.
Yes. Yes.
And so the certification of what Brad Bunker has done, that's what Michael is recommending that we approve and sign off on. And so then Luanne.
Okay, so yeah, so I looked at it to see what was what, that's where like the paving, there's some different ones that had, seemed like they should match up. And so there's on the map, if you show, yeah, maybe you can pull that. Some of the differences were, like Michael said, they call forth, on the south side of Main Street and the north side, and would do a thing. So I did some measuring on Google Earth, and that part all looks fine. On the edit, like Cow Canyon Road, which is where would you call Cow Canyon Road? In Cow Canyon, maybe? It's not. The county calls the Bluff Bench Road Cow Canyon Road. And so just, changing a few things like that of what we call things. They call Third over here Cottonwood Wash Road. So do we go with what the county calls it, or do we go with what the town calls it, which is Third West, is what we all call it. It does go up to Cottonwood Wash. I mean, you call it Wildland Conservancy Road, you call it the old school or the new school road, but anyway, I just changed it to Third to match what we all know it by. And then some of these, like, just to clarify which streets they're talking about, made some edits on the list. And the top total for the paved, when you add all those up, is correct. It's 7.88. They had 7.89. I figured that was the same. And then when you get to gravel, they split it up a little, because there's a stretch, and then there'll be a paved stretch, and then there'll be another gravel stretch or whatever. So I just notated where those actually are. And then like 4th West is north of Cottonwood, because Cottonwood runs along the north side of the subdivision, and then there's little spurs up above it. So those are claimed on the UDOT manifest. And so what this is for, to back up a little bit, this manifest we submit to the state, and depending on how many miles of gravel and how many miles of paved, et cetera, they share tax money with the town of Bluff, so that we have money to grade them and fix potholes and all that. That's where the road fund comes from, but they need to know what we have. So the 4th west south of Larkspur is the road that goes down past, over towards Jim Sayers, for lack of a better way to explain where it is. It goes past Cottonwood RV Park, and then it stops at the edge of the subdivision and goes into private property. Right now, we're claiming 110 feet of that. It's actually on private property. And then the same thing happens over on 6th on, let's see. Let's see, on what you're showing, okay, 6th west segment where I've got it crossed off on both. That is just the subdivision buffer. That is not deeded over to the town in the quitclaim deed that the county gave to us when they quitclaimed all the streets and alleys in Bluff, which they did in April of 2021. Willie Gray Eyes was part of that team at the time, but that was signed over to us, so we have all the alleys, we have all the streets. But that one is not one that they quitclaimed. It's outside of the subdivision and it's private. So that would come off, and I just edited those. And then when you total that gravel section up, you do not get 505 before or after my edits. But if you do my edits of taking 0.02 off and then taking 0.09 off, that would be 0.1 off, which does not add up. So anyway, the total, when you total it up, is 4.53. And then the dirt, the Trading Post Spur is what they're calling Recapture Wash Road. And so for clarity, for our purposes, if we want to rename roads at some point, fine, but that's sort of the existing name, Recapture Wash Road. So I did that edit, and that was the only thing on the dirt roads, but when you total those up, you do not get 4.7, you get 3.94. So when you do the totals of all of those, you get 16.36 rather than 17.64, which is 1.3 miles. And, the 0.01s and whatnot, those 0.1 would be the equivalent of a block. So it's in miles. In feet, it's, 100 feet, 200 feet, but in miles, they get reported by miles. So I would recommend that we make those corrections and submit the correct thing. I think it's always easier to send it correct than to try to do an amendment later. And so especially those pieces that go onto private property, I don't feel comfortable asking for public funds to do private work.
So were there 2 private parcels that you talked about, 6
Yeah, there's
west and 3 west?
4th west south of Larkspur, that one that's got it on the screen. It's that top one, 0.10 instead of 0.12. I matched it up to what they call 5th, because 5th south of Larkspur goes straight down and dead ends at the 4th south buffer. It's not an alley on the far end, it's a buffer. So that is the same distance on the plat map as this is. Can you show the plat map, Erin? That might help. It's on that other, it came as a separate email from me. Yeah, so it's 4th and 6th that end up in the private property.
And so who
So
has the private property on all of these, like 4th and 6th?
Well, on 4th, I don't know if it's Jim Sayers, but it's the one that goes to Bob Helms, and it goes to Jim Sayers, and it goes to Joe's. Bob Helms probably owns it.
Most of that, yeah.
He owns that, and I mean, they may really appreciate us doing their private work, but I don't think we should be. And the same on 6th West, that ends on the buffer. It stops at the buffer.
And then you said that was also private? Who
And
has-
that one is part Guyman and part ours. And it says there's 20 feet of buffer, and then there's roughly, oh yeah, there it is. Yeah, so what I did on this map, because when they did the subdivision in 1957, I believe, they were different names, just like there are different names to Cottonwood Wash and whatever. There were different names. So I put them in here, and you can see right through the middle. My printer's not very strong, so apologize for that. But you can see Main Street running through there. That's the highway. So these all come up to the highway on all these various spots, and then they all go north to up to that buffer. And you can see the buffer all the way around. It's the little 20-foot, yeah, all the way up and around and all the way down around. So some of that the county is given away as assuming they were alleys. And so some of those aren't intact, but it's still intact on this map. But they are, that is a buffer. So anyway, if you look where I've got them labeled 7th, 6th, 5th, 4th, so on. You can see where 4th comes down, and it should stop down there at the bottom, down at the 4th South Alley, right, the next one below Sagebrush. If that was a street, it would be 4th South or be named something else, but that's should be where the road stops.
So if I remember correctly from yesterday, Michael, this should have been to Chris Potter at UDOT on December 31st.
Yes. Just a comment about 6 West, that section that's south of Larkspur, that's a public street. That's no longer an alley.
Well,
And,
Michael,
and that's based on prescriptive right of way. And, on Third West, the same thing happened. It was once an alley and then it became a road. And, that's just the way it is. So, Luanne and I have had this discussion a number of times, and, so I just want to
well,
say.
I do share ownership with Guyman's on that, so as far as, conflict of interest or whatever. But the town, I've looked at all the deeds, the town does not have any deed to that property. If the town chooses to take it and make it a road, that would be an option, of course. We can take anybody's property and make it a road if we want to. But at this point, we can change that later. But at this point, that road does not go through there, and we're asking for public funds to fund our road systems on people's private property. So
Yeah,
until you take that private property, I don't think we should be asking for public funds to grade their roads.
So it seems to me,
I just want to
Go ahead,
point out, prescriptive right of way, Cemetery Hill Road is based on prescriptive right of way. Cow Canyon Road is based on prescriptive right of way. That's just the way it comes down, And, as far as that piece that goes, into Sayers' property, I think that was just a mismark. I don't think, we're claiming that. This is simply for road maintenance disbursement from UDOT. And so, again, I recommend that we submit this to UDOT.
It goes down another 100 feet past that, and that's why you have 0.02 of difference in the route. And Michael, how far does that road go then? Does it go clear down to where the easement is for the water on 6th? How far is the road in your mind?
well, hold on, I think we're moving off right now from what the point of discussion is.
Okay, well,
We have a deadline of December 31st.
Yeah, we have a debt, yeah.
So we have a deadline.
I am concerned about the totals though of what's on Michael's sheet, because like those, I agree with Luanne that those totals don't add up if you're just doing that addition. So I don't know if we can just take a moment to make sure those are all correct, because what's in the right-hand column is not adding up to 5.5. Let me share my screen again.
So we're not going to edit a surveyor's calculation.
Right, but what we're sending in for the actual like addition is not correct.
So let me finish what my thought was. I think that one way to approach it is either approve it as it is, or send it back to Bruce Bunker to ask, or Brad Bunker to redo the math. But leaving, we've spent money to have a surveyor do it. I don't feel comfortable approving our in-house calculations when we've had a surveyor do it. I do agree that if the math doesn't add up, asking him to take a quick look at it so we can turn it around. But
When did we hire him? Because I don't remember ever hiring Brad Bunker to do anything other than the survey third or was second over here, and to survey seventh. I don't remember hiring him to do our road report.
Well, yeah,
let's just stick with the issue at hand. Okay, I would vote to approve it and amend it down the road, or to send it back to him and ask him to redo the math. But I can't vote to have us internally amending the calculations. I think they should go back to the surveyor. So other people?
Well, if it's already late, then I'm happy to talk with him. Since Michael's out of town.
Michael, as a committee, we said Michael would be the point person on this. And he, being out of town, Michael can certainly do it. He was able to meet with us yesterday. He's been talking with Brad.
But he doesn't want a second set of ears on any conversation, so if we could do it, part of the committee be on there, Erin or somebody else to be on the conversation, that might be good, especially for paying him to do this job, which I don't know how much he's charged. Say I don't remember hiring him to do that. I thought it was an in-house report to UDOT.
How far is it on?
I agree with Ann. I think we should approve it and then change it later if needed.
I think that we should at least have him, if we're not being able to add up the same totals using his numbers, I think we need to have him address that, at least. I agree that we shouldn't be collecting town taxes to pay for private road maintenance.
I think that giving him the opportunity to add up the numbers again makes sense to me, but
And to look at those private sections so that he understands that we're on private property that we're claiming.
I think the question is it private property and what did he rely on? Not that we're telling him it is private property.
No, he would look, that's why I say he would look at this, the deed that the county, just in 2021, the county sent the deed over, the quitclaim deed of what streets they claim, and they don't claim those. So there wouldn't be any, that he just hasn't, probably isn't aware of it, I suppose, because he's a good guy, he does a lot of surveying, he knows a lot of stuff.
And I would imagine he's relying on what's been recorded at the county.
Mhm. Well, that's what this is.
Yeah,
And there's
what's
nothing
been
else
recorded.
so.
Correct.
We just need to bring this to his attention with I'm happy to go on with Michael and talk with him and see what he comes up with.
So Michael, are you comfortable with reaching out to Brad and asking him to double check his work?
yes.
With the
Yes.
idea that we would definitely want to be able to approve it no later than next Tuesday, which means we'll need to add a meeting to our work session. Would everybody
Well, there's.
be okay with that?
We need to do that anyway, because it doesn't say we're voting on anything. If we
Okay.
need a vote, we don't have it on today anyway.
Okay, so is everybody okay with adding a meeting next week? Okay, so Michael, if you can reach out to Brad and ask him to double check his work.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll do.
Okay, so let's table this and then I'll put it on for next.
And you want Michael to do it just one set of ears?
I didn't say that.
Okay, but
And-
can
and-
I join him? Can
You're,
I join you, Michael?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
I said, can I join you on your meeting with Brad?
Yeah, I mean, if people will pass their comments to me, and then, let me review them, and then, we'll take it from there.
You've got all mine, then we shared the screen today. You've got it in your email.
I didn't get that, Luann, that what you showed. I'll look again, but I didn't see that. I saw the 1957 plat map.
It's the one right before that that has what Erin was sharing. It's that one right before. It has the edits on the report that he made us make some edits on his.
Okay,
Somebody else save them sometime.
okey-doke.
okay, so I'll add a meeting component to next week's work session. Then, Michael, the other piece is the engineering on, the engineering report on Calf Canyon.
Right. And where we're at with that is, a decision needs to be made in response to Jones and DeMille's letter, asking us if we want to request a bond, that issue. I don't know, I guess the ball's in your court, the town's court on that.
So what the issue is Jones and DeMille has asked if we want to require a bid bond for the bid that would go out for the work on Calf Canyon and 7 West. And the work is estimated at $35,000 to $50,000 for both projects. So I fired off a quick email to our attorney. But I think in terms of approving, the work moving forward, we could go ahead and dispose of it now by saying we'll follow whatever the advice is that the attorney gives on either we need the bid bond or we don't, if everyone's okay with that.
Yeah, so what it basically, because I wasn't quite clear, maybe you guys are more familiar with it, but it basically says if you're gonna put a bid in, you have to match it with 10% of the 50,000, so you have to put some money down. You can't come to town with hoping you'll get some town money out of the deal.
Yeah.
So it gets a little guarantee out of the solidity of a company. And Jones and DeMille says it's a state managed a code, I don't have it in front of me, but there's a code that says you have to get these bid bonds unless our town stuff is more restrictive when we say something different. And we didn't have that procurement thing, and so we thought we should have Chris look at that and tell us what we needed. But they that's all they need in order to help us to post it, to get the work done. Jones and DeMille will help us with all that. They'll help to supervise the work that's done on both those projects.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of hearing from Chris, yes, he wants the provision or no, he doesn't in the contract.
We'll put the bids out and get them in and get that work done. There's erosion going on 7th, but that can be diverted down one side or the other, whichever, I don't remember what they decided, but there's a storm drain at the bottom on both sides of it. And then on the Cap Canyon Road, it's over there at that pond to get that, to keep that erosion from happening. So they'll repair that erosion and do both of those in one bond or one package, one bid package to one company. So
So the 7th west erosion is happening by the highway or?
Off the side of the road, kind of over to the east of it. It kind of comes off and comes down the bank there, which we found when there was a complaint about something else, but it's coming under that and is eroding away that, it's basically pavement on that sandy hill.
Yeah, so we've already approved all the work and everything, so the only real question is, are we okay with a vote that says Michael can tell Jones and DeMille yes or no once we get the attorney's opinion back? And I just asked Chris to say yes or no, not to do a deep dive into why. I sent him the whole long letter, which was, I think, 8 pages front and back, to him to take a look at.
So we need a motion.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it.
Well, I don't think we have that on our
Here.
agenda either to vote. I think we can just say a consensus is to.
Sure.
Since
Yeah, I think,
nobody.
because we've already voted, yeah, we've already voted to do the work. Are we all okay with just as soon as I get the answer, telling them what? I'll send it to everybody then when I get the email from Chris. And then Michael, I'll notify you right away so that you can.
Okay.
I'm hoping that I know something by the end of the day tomorrow,
Okay, good.
and then you'd be able to move forward.
Right, good.
And 14, you've got an update from our meeting. Should we just finish that while Michael's still on?
Sure, why don't you go ahead, Lou, with it?
Yeah, so those were, we talked about those maps, the capital areas, and then the subdivision ordinance, which Ann already mentioned. We want to do an appendix to that and C road status. So we'll work on that once, and Michael can help with that to put up what exactly that means when you have a Class C road. And then Jones and DeMille they've been doing a paving test. The depth of the road that is, we all called it the old highway that goes in front of Lyndon's house and then around by the fort and past by the bank and out. That was the old highway. So they were surveying that to see if it's solid enough to keep or whether it needs to be churned up and done away with. And they were getting 5-inch plugs out of there. I was here the day they were drilling it. And they were getting sufficient pavement, so it would be kind of a waste to churn it all up. But we have talked with our road department and with them to make sure they consider the active transportation plan, that we want safe areas for people to walk and to bicycle. Even if we make that road nice and smooth and get rid of those bumps, then we need to add the trail beside it or some safe place for kids and people to walk along that. It would take traffic off of Mulberry on the north. It would take traffic back down there if it wasn't so bumpy. But then they were, looking at that to see what kind of improvements we can do, but at the same time, like, where would we put the trail and whatnot. But I think that's all I took on my notes. Did you have anything else to add, Michael, because from just the meeting?
No, just that those core samples show 4 inches of asphalt, 6 inches of base, and then the native red substrata below that. So 4 inches of asphalt is good, and the bed, the road bed, seems to be substantial, and so in the long run, what that translates to is a less expensive project than it would have been. The rule of thumb is $1 million a mile. That roadway is a little short of a mile. So right now, the engineer's talking 600,000.
And they were surprised at how thick the pavement was. They said, well, it was the old highway, so they had originally done it for that, but it's just gotten so many crack ceilings done that it's pretty bumpy. Anyway, but that was pretty much it, and I don't think we have another meeting scheduled. Yes.
There was one other piece, which was the Appendix A to the subdivision on the roads. Michael had asked about that, and I said we've deferred that to a work session so that we could get the subdivision ordinance passed. without holding that up. So I think that covers the road information.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Michael. All right then, number 5, I went to the San Juan County Commission meeting today because this was the first day of the new commission meeting. Lori Mon was sworn in, and then there were, I think, 5 other people who were re-elected that were sworn in. I had a brief conversation with Commissioner Mon before she got sworn in, and she was asking about the status of the, as she called it, the old school, and whether we were enjoying it. So we had a quick conversation about that. I asked her if the rumors were correct that she was getting ahead of the job by actually talking to people ahead of time, and she said she'd been out kind of working the crowd kind of thing. She seemed very enthusiastic about the job, and everybody got sworn in, and then I left. I wanted to stay, but I just had too much else to do. But I think it would be good to go back to at least one of us being on monitor the commission meetings until we kind of have a sense as to how this commission is doing and kind of flowing. So I'll try to remind everybody when the commission meetings are the first and third Tuesday.
And just before you leave that subject, I just was going to say for you guys that maybe don't do or don't remember, but she was on the school board. She was the president of the school board when they made the vote to sell the school to the town of Bluff.
Actually, she's still on the school board.
Is she doing both? Okay.
No, she's not. She's giving up the school board, but she has to go to the last meeting to be able to approve the agenda. So
Yeah.
when I said, oh, so you're off, she's like, no.
Okay. But she was on when we went through all of those discussions and, persuasions back in the day, so.
Yeah, so I think it'd be worth, continuing to, starting back to at least one of us on the council. I know Erin frequently listens to it, but I think getting a sense as to how this commission will float, and then maybe trying to ask what we did in 2018 was to do a joint meeting with the commissioners and have us all meet with the commissioners in a public meeting. And it was very fun with that commission to do that. I think we had lunch afterward, didn't we? We had a lunch for everybody, so. The building inspection agreement is on here because Kristen Bushnell informed me that the San Juan County inspector has taken a job with the sheriff's department. He will no longer be the inspector. The agreement that she worked on for Monticello and Bluff is out the window because they have no inspector. And so what she and I talked about was maybe Bluff wants to do what San Juan County is probably going to do, which is to hire the no longer inspector, now deputy, to do the inspections on a contract. So he's willing to do that for San Juan County, and I thought it was actually Kristen Bushnell's suggestion that we approach him as well, because we don't have that many inspections, new building permits. It's running about 4 or 5 a year. So it would not be more than what we would be paying the county if we went through the county, because, see if I can get this straight, the person building or needing the inspection pays for it. So that's a pass-through. But where we would see a cost increase is contracting with San Juan County, where we buy into their computer system. And we probably have few enough building inspections that we would not need to buy in for that piece of it at the level that the county was discussing if they continued the process as they were envisioning it. The biggest problem we all have right now is without a building inspector with the county, we need to have a list of inspectors to hand out, and also under the new rules, if we don't have an inspector that can do it within so many days, they can choose, is 4 days?
3.
They can pick their own inspector. So we really want to work with this. Kristen Bushnell also said she would send us over her draft of what that contract is going to look like based on her conversations, and we could just use hers to work off of. But for right now, we don't have a building inspection.
Well, when does he immediately stop, or does he start like in another month or something? Or?
I didn't ask that question because
It seemed immediate.
Well, my guess is he probably gave a 2-week notice. That would be my guess at the county level. But I will follow up with Kristen about it.
Yeah. I think it's great if he's willing to do that. I think it's awesome. It gives him a supplemental, it's kind of a mutually, symbiotic relationship if he can do it and we can all use his services. I think it's great if he'll do that, if that's an okay thing to do.
There's something in the back of my mind about it's not a conflict of interest. There was something 3 or 4 years ago that popped up that was similar to this, that they had to stop doing it. They meaning folks who were employed by the county were doing something else. But
this is completely different though.
I don't remember what it was, but I do know that I can follow up with Kristen Bushnell to see what her conversations are, what the deadlines are, and in terms of when he leaves, and get a copy of what she's working on, and then we can see if we want to do that or not, or if somebody has another option. But we need to do something pretty quickly, one way or another. So I will try to get a hold of Kristen and get more detail, but I'll add that to the work session and maybe we can hammer it out next week. Any other questions or anything anybody wants me to follow up on that part? So number 6, update on the status of the International Dark Sky application. I think I asked Sarah Barak if she could do that. I don't know if she's on either.
She is.
Okay.
Here.
Hey, Sarah, do you want to give a brief update here then where we are with that, or where you are with it?
Yeah. So, well, we've submitted. So yay. On December 19th, I submitted our International Dark Sky Community application to the Dark Sky Association, to our program coordinator. I'm not sure his title, but to Michael Reamer, and he will then look at it and get back to us. So he replied, I submitted it on the 19th. He replied on the 20th that there are 2 applications in front of us, and it'll take him a little bit of time to review it, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks, he said by the beginning of the year, sometime shortly after the beginning of the year, we'll hopefully get his feedback. He has asked that we complete the checklist. So that's something that's still kind of outstanding. Erin and I have looked at this checklist before, and Diana Davison and I used it to help make sure that we had all of the components for our application. But essentially what Michael would like for us to do is fill out that checklist and specifically point to where in our application we've met that requirement. So I'll start working on that and this week, next week. If anybody wants to read through our 60-page document again and document where we've put the evidence, let me know. We can work on that together, but that's kind of the next step. Michael will be working through that checklist to make sure that we have everything in the application. He wants us to work through the checklist to make sure that we have everything in the application. And then he will basically submit it to the board of directors when we've completed it. So I think that we are very much there. I think we have everything we need, but I'll go through the checklist and make sure that The application has that within it. And if there's any revisions that we need to make, we can make those. But basically, Michael will not submit an application that will fail to receive approval. So we'll go back and forth until we have everything that Michael feels is necessary, and then it'll present it to the board. So it could be several months still before we have like a ruling, but our application is submitted and our application is very strong. Catherine Wheeler, who was the designer who took all the information that everybody worked so hard to gather and made it look very pretty. She did that, and we've closed out that account. So the town council will be receiving an invoice, and then probably this week she's going to email it, and I'll send it on to you guys. But she is available if Michael comes back and says we need revisions. She can help make those revisions for us.
Thank you. That's great. Just question, Lou?
Well, I just wondered, I know we saw a draft, but is the final submission one available somewhere? Can you just like send a link or something?
Yeah, I'll send you guys a link, but if you guys, you should have the Google Drive, and it is the final version is in that Google Drive. The I think it's Bluff Dark Sky application, community application drive. So if you have that folder, the final one's in that folder, but I can also send a link with that in it as well.
Yeah, thank you.
This
For pulling
cement,
it all together.
yeah, and this cements that we get certification in accordance with 2024 specs rather than
Yes,
future specs. Okay.
good question, and yes.
Poorly, but
Yeah.
kind of locks us in. right?
Yeah, locks us in, yep. And if I remember correctly, and I may not, from some of those meetings last year, it sounded like there weren't any pending immediate changes even in 2025, that they were looking a couple of years out, so.
Yeah, I don't think there's been any major updates. And basically we've been working from I think the most recent requirements. And I really don't think, I mean, our ordinance was pretty close in the beginning, but then we updated it to meet the requirements. So I think the only place they could maybe get us would be that we're missing something from the ordinance, but I feel like that's unlikely because it's been reviewed by both John Barentine and our previous project manager with the Dark Sky Association, Amber, also looked at it. The only thing, and I dug through, because it's been years, guys. I dug through some emails, and the only thing that I think we might have to add to our application is there's a spot about signs, and we do address signs in our lighting ordinance, but I think we might have to include our sign ordinance. So that would be an addition, but I don't think that's anything major. That would just be adding a page or two of our sign ordinance into the document.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, thanks a lot for getting that in. It's really a big thing. Yeah, it's
awesome,
great.
Sarah, thanks for keeping track of it over it, because it has been some years.
It's been some years. Yeah, no, and thank you for everybody's work. There's been a lot of hands in this, and it's been a lot of years, but a lot of people have put a lot of work into it. So thank you guys for everyone's contribution. It's taken a while, but I think we're nearly there at this point.
And Diana lately has done a lot, so that's nice. Her retirement of Bluff.
And
Yes.
I'm happy, Sarah, to give some time going through it and trying to match up on the checklist if you want to get back with me and let me know what time frame you're looking at.
Okay, I can do that, Ann.
Okay, well, thank you, and we'll just move to the next project, update on the status of solar panels.
Great news. They're gonna be delivered tomorrow morning.
Yay.
Woohoo! So Lou and I are gonna meet in the unnamed location and show them where to put them.
Yeah, and I wanted to say, as far as conflicts of interest go and whatnot, we did offer some storage space, but it is all donated. It's donated to the town. I'm not receiving any money back from this storage. Hopefully it will be stored for a year or less. If we start going into 5 years or something. But anyway, it is donated. It's not, I'm not receiving any benefit from that at all.
But if we see panels going up at the lodge, we should get worried. Well, thank you, Jim and
Well,
Lou.
what's that?
Do you need anybody else there, or are you too good to go with it?
I think we'll be good.
Okay.
They'll receive an invoice after for about 2,200 is what they quoted
To deliver.
to deliver.
And they're
Pick
bringing
up.
what they need to.
They're bringing the forklift and stuff, and they're all packaged, they're all wrapped, they'll all just sit there and wait, so. Until they can get put on the roof, put on the parking barriers, whatever.
Wherever they're going.
Wherever they go.
Well, that's a pretty inexpensive price tag for what we ended up with. So we should write a thank you to AES and to the city of Monticello, who didn't
And
want them.
at some point, I don't know if this is a good time, because the solar panels will be here, but we need some sort of electrician to come and tell us what we're gonna need on what sort of hookup and what would be required to get them here or there or whatever. We need some advisement on that.
I think that's probably something that goes to the DRC that they'll need to work on with the design review committee to make a recommendation as to where they'll go, which probably ties into the next thing, which is an update on the status of grants and where we are.
Yeah. Can the owl hear me okay? That's
Yep,
so cool.
I think so. I think I'm picking you up.
Seems like it can,
Okay.
about 15 feet is, so if you wanted to move just a touch closer, that's probably helpful.
So, update on status of grants. I'll start with the easy grant, or the only grant we have for the community center, the EECBG. So I've been working with the Utah Office of Energy Development on this agreement, and I'm making a couple of final edits, and then I'll send it over to you guys for approval when it's ready. And that was the grant awarded for a new lighting in this building, interior and exterior. The only exterior being the light over the senior center, and then we'll replace all of our bulbs here, restrooms, and then senior center. So $27,825. Woohoo!
Thank you.
Yeah. And then other grants, the EPA, EJG2G, so many. So that grant, we have submitted our information for substituting UDB with a new partner, and the EPA has tentatively approved it. I just submitted a little bit more information last week so that we can get that completed, and then we will continue moving forward, and they will be our new subrecipient of the $200,000. And we have received an extension on our cultural capital grant, the remaining $41,000, I believe, and that one is extended until June of this year. And that is all that is new on grants.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And we haven't heard anything from the USDA on the fire suppression grant in quite a while. Probably be worth reaching out to them just to be sure we're still on track for that. I think changed people pretty regularly over there, so
Make sure we didn't fall through any cracks.
yeah.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Any questions from Leah about where we are?
Thank you, Malia.
So I think where that solar panel, electrical stuff comes in as well, working on the building itself and the design where those are gonna go, what the best placement is.
Yeah, and then when you get that, you'll know how many you need over there, maybe. I mean, it's hard to know, maybe how many to hold. Because then some spares could come here, because they weren't specifically given to the school. They were given.
So one other question is, you referred to the energy development grant.
Yes.
So the document that I have, the government agency agreement, Is this the one you're working on?
It is.
Okay.
Let me look at that, double check, because there were some spelling, yeah, so they have our address wrong, and there's a couple of other spots that I asked them to edit, so that is not a final.
Perfect. Then that probably can be squeezed in at the end of next Tuesday if it's done then, otherwise the next Tuesday. So just let me know.
Perfect, I will, thank you.
Thanks. Then number 9, report on design review committee meeting. That was January 2nd, 2025. And that's Malia Collins, Britt Hornsby, and Jen Davila.
Yeah, it was another pretty quick meeting. We gave update from the town side of things, update on the new subrecipient, things like that. We had for attendance, we had Jen, myself, and Erin for town. And Janet Sloman, she did show up. She was a few minutes late, and then she was really sick. She sounded horrible. The one thing she did say, she sounded awful. So she said she would email us up their updates. Did you receive anything? I didn't receive anything. You said you had talked with her. Did you receive an email from her?
I sent her an email Sunday because I've had no contact with her since things were kind of going south on the grant. And I thought this would be a good time to reach out. It's just I asked her how she was feeling. Was she feeling better? And then I'd like to get together and talk with her about where we're at when she feels better. And I also told her that I reminded her that there are no working bathrooms in the building, so that people going to the modular will need to figure out their schedules on what they need to do. She replied that she appreciated that I had reached out and she would be in touch, but that's all she said.
So we basically got the same kind of thing. Like, she'd be in touch. We didn't hear back, but that was really all she said. So we didn't really get an update on the almost $6,000 outstanding bills from, was that Q2 and Q3. So we didn't get an update on that, but so it was like, ended up being like a 15-minute meeting again, or if that. But we did hear from Malia that James shut off the water heaters, furnaces, and all that are off over there now. So.
Not the furnaces.
He drained stuff down.
He did?
Yep.
Hopefully.
Said he did.
It's just plumbing disasters are so much more expensive than heat.
So
We'll cross our fingers, I guess. It's nice if they can blow it out, if you can get it blown out of there, but out of the modular and the building.
There's no water in the modular.
There isn't.
No, that's why I
Right.
reminded.
So yes, they were going into the.
Yeah. They were going into the
Well,
building. Yes.
It's never happened before, so hopefully it will be okay.
And then Malia gave us an update on the solar panels, and we got some info from Jen on the warm elders thing for the wood
And
bank.
Erin distributed Herbert's address.
Erin, it was you. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Okay, and you're meeting this Thursday
It's
too.
Thursday. Yep.
What are the water heaters over there? Are they tanks? So did he drain those too?
He's pretty thorough.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he must feel pretty confident that he could blow out everything.
Yeah. That's kind of his baby. I don't think he's going to make a mistake on that building. I hope. Okay, then number 10, update on the subdivision ordinance work by Hanson and the final billing. So I signed off on a couple of things for Hanson that were time sensitive. One was the amendment to the MOU, the Memorandum of Understanding, that said the work would be completed by October, and it wasn't completed because planning and zoning, and then we had some suggested asked some questions, and so they used the deadline of December 31st so that they could get billed for their work. And I think, let's see if I brought it with me yet. The other thing is they submitted their final bill to the state, which I had to sign off on. And so the expenses from July 2024 through the end of December 2024, which includes the first week of January. The expenses were $3,412.50. And I approved that, which makes the state payment on this contract approximately $13,500 that the state paid to Hanson on our behalf, which is really great. So I've just signed off on that one too. Any questions about where we are with the subdivision ordinance? It's done with the exception of going back and looking at that appendix A on the road work and the standards.
And did you have a question into Hanson about roads, like how specific they need to be, or?
No, they couldn't really do anything until after December 31st. And so I think it's a matter of just looking at, well, they use just the Class C road standards, which is broad. And Michael Havocan really wants it a little more specified. And that's what we need to talk about at the work session is, do we want to make it more specified or just leave it as it is? Because that's.
The Class C roads may vary. I don't know if years go by or not, but they're easy enough to find, I suppose.
So that's what we'll do at the work session, see if we want to do anything further with that. Anything else on any questions? Right, then moving to number 11, discussion of the joint work session with planning and zoning and the town council. We pretty much have covered that. We're looking at the 14th or the 16th to do a joint work session that Chris McEnany can be in on. And I have not heard back from him yet.
On the 14th, would you do it after our meeting or?
I don't know. I'd want to see what his availability is, and I want to see what planning and zoning would be able to do.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
Whether they're working it only at 6. But
Yeah, I mean, if we do it,
earlier.
yeah, if we do it at our meeting, it would be, we'd have a work session, a very brief meeting, and then Chris McEnany. So it might go a little longer than an hour and a half, but.
Well, I think he maybe, I mean, it depends on the schedule, but I think he appreciates doing it during his work day. If possible.
The end of his day is about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. That's frequently when he calls. So, lawyers don't work 8 to 5 jobs, contrary to what people think. I think for him, it's a matter of where does he want to fit it in. And it might be that neither of those days work. So I'll try to get a feel for that for next week. So number 12 was the question on signing on the discussing and voting on that agreement that Malia Collins just described isn't ready yet. So that'll move to hopefully next Tuesday or the following Tuesday for the Utah Office of Energy Development on the upgrade of the lighting. And then just to follow up, if everyone, when they look at the work session, if you see things that you want to add, be sure you let me know so that I can get those on there. And then number 13 is yours, Lou, report on January 2nd, 2025 planning and zoning meeting.
Yeah, and that was, I listened to the recording and also read all the minutes and whatnot. That was the one I missed, but anyway, I'm up to date, and Malia's in our audience. If she wants to add anything, you're certainly welcome. And a lot of this you've already discussed in one way or another, because they are still discussing the draft RV ordinance, but they got that to the point that they're finished. They will not put it on the joint work session if Chris is not able to join, because the last questions that they have before they pass it off, they want some legal input on it. One of the things they changed was for mobile homes, 1 per half acre is what is allowed in our regular zoning. There were no land use clearances submitted, so nobody's wanting to build anything at this point. There was quite a bit of discussion still on enforcement, and again, that's where Chris comes in. They would like to talk to the town attorney. One thing that Marcia brought up, I think towards the end of it, is when she worked up in Glenwood in Colorado, the town attorney was at those planning and zoning meetings, and so is the town manager, which helped some of these questions that keep kind of stirring around and coming back and forth. Bigger town, of course, but it might save some time if those, I mean, I don't know that the attorney can come every time, but they're looking forward to having the attorney talk with them so they can know more what to do. They talked about some activity in town that's not, doesn't have a permit yet. There's some potential looking projects that need to have a land use clearance. Nothing's happened on them yet to require that apparently, but anyway, that's in discussion too of how to handle that. They want to reach out to some other towns and they did a little bit of that, but nobody really has a lot to go there either. But they wanted to talk to the town attorney first and then see what other towns do for enforcement. Yeah, so then we talked about the joint meeting, and then they want to start interviewing for the 5th zoning commission, planning and zoning commission seat. They just are at 4 right now, and they have changed the schedule to Thursday at 6 p.m. They have that on their February 6th meeting, and then also the election of officers. They'll do that. So, any questions, or Malia, do you have anything to add to that? Okay. Any questions? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
All right.
So I did ask that planning and zoning not send the RV ordinance to Chris McEnany until we have a complete list of what we need to have done and get a priority list together, because there are a number of projects we have sitting that aren't completed, and we need to do a priority rather than kind of first in, first out kind of thing. We've got a couple things that are a little more pressing right now.
And
So
if we do a work session and sort of get it up to date of whatever we want in a work session, that it can sit and wait, because we've already had the hearing.
Right.
But we don't want to lose track of those comments.
Well, yeah, I don't think, I just think that there are a couple things that we haven't completed that need to be done first. That
No,
have
I agree. I
priority.
wouldn't send it yet either until we get some stuff cleared up.
All right, then. We moved number 14 and covered that on the roads department update. Number 15, trash can options and solutions for West Park and the Bluff Community Center. Malia?
Hey, me again. So you received a document in your packet that is a Word document that has a couple of different trash can styles and prices. So the reason you received this is because we have a 5-gallon bucket over at the West Park that is currently serving as a trash can that is not effective when it comes to critter control, and no one is really emptying it other than Mayor Leppanen. Thank you so much. And so we're in an attempt to make this a proper park. I think we need a trash can. And so this brought up the discussion of a trash can there, and it turns out if you buy multiple trash cans, they're cheaper. And so as I was thinking about it, I just decided that we could probably also use an exterior trash can here that is for people to just drop, they stop by, have lunch, drop their trash in so that it's not just going straight into the dumpster, maybe have it a little more contained. And so I'm thinking two trash cans here. My thought is under the pavilion would be a great location for one, and then also under the Fire Mesa kitchen overhead overhanging space there. And then location at the West Park, a great spot would just be where that 5-gallon bucket is on the outside of the fence, but there's actually a weighted trash can that we can put bags in, remove bags, and take that out. Also, this is a new topic for most of you probably. We could also get another trash can and put it up at the gazebo up on Cemetery Hill. Since I live up there, I know the amount of trash that forms up there. And we could also discuss the options of a dog poop bag, because my dog rolled into, I think, human feces yesterday that came from that area. So just something else, throwing that out there for everybody to contemplate. So anyways, back to our trash can discussion. So we have a couple of different styles that I sent you. One of the more traditional is that Landmark series, and that the first one that you received. It's more of like a concrete sided. All of these are weighted, and so they won't blow away. But it's really just how much do you guys want to spend? How many do you want? And which style are you looking for? All three of these are obviously outdoor trash cans. Some of them have lids so that birds can't get in, and potentially squirrel protection, but I kind of doubt it.
Dog knocking over.
Yeah, dogs will not be able to knock these over unless there's a herd of them, which we sometimes have.
So wouldn't it just be the community center manager that's checking all of them and keeping an eye on them and stuff?
Great question. That was a discussion that Erin and I had today of who would be doing those, and I assume it would probably be me, which that's fine. May as well put it on the list. Or we could even chat with Patricia Bellison and see if she would be interested in adding an extra 30 minutes a month or a week to checking these different trash cans. So I have a meeting with her tomorrow, and I can propose that if that's something she'd be interested in. But then it would also be her transporting it in her private vehicle, or me transporting it in my private vehicle.
I assume that you would have it on Steve Helgerson's trash run, because that's a lot to expect people to put the trash in their cars, and then are we, the town, paying for that car and that mileage, and it gets a little bit confusing. My comment is they seem fine, but I've lived here a long time, and the trash is a problem. If you put something out where we don't have trash service here, it's just like the recycling stuff. I tell people, pack it in, pack it out. Just put a sign at West Park that says, help keep our park clean, pack it in, pack it out. You put a trash can out there, guess what? You're gonna get trash. You're gonna get bags left, they're gonna come by and they're gonna see that, oh, look, there's a trash can, let's leave it, look. And so they empty their car, or they empty their house, or whatever, and bring it over. So I think that's pretty risky over there. I think that wouldn't fly very well unless you really want trash, because it will come.
Yeah.
Here, I think it's a little bit different, but people do come in and drop it. I've had a couple of people tell me that they see them come in and drop household trash in our dumpsters. So if you want trash, if you want to be in that service, and we've got the local management. Up here, at least you don't get all the highway people dropping it off.
Yeah.
They stop, like Linda's always saying, they stop to use the bathroom at the KNC or whatever. Okay, you can give them a little trash, because you're also giving them business. So I'd say up here is a little different, because we have groups, and we have people in here, and we have people, gathering at the fire. So I could support like 2 outside here that size, and get rid of the dumpster, or put the dumpster with these guys over here. You see, they lock theirs up, and it's for that reason, because as soon as word gets out, you can take your trash to Bluff. Anybody in Bluff or outside of Bluff, it's a nice feature. It's a nice service.
Right.
But do we want that?
So
expense?
so I will advocate for West Park, because there are 2 residents that have dogs up there that have a path to West Park, and people, I have a very clear view of it, will put the stuff into the can, but the can is low. I go down there once a week. It's only a 5-gallon bucket. It's never been full. What happens is, so people aren't going there and dumping a lot of stuff.
No, not a 5-gallon. They're not.
No, and there's not stuff laying around. The dogs, however, have a path. They come down as soon as somebody leaves, and they pull it out and they eat it. And so I think we really need one there. It is a park. We've made it public. There's going to be a kiosk down there for the river trail. I think we really need to have a can there. And if there's concern about the time, I do it anyway. So what difference does it make if I do it once a week? It's not a big deal to me. I'm happy to take that on, but I really feel strongly we need something there, or it's just with the kiosk and advertising that as a trailhead area.
Like in the mountains and in the trails and at the lakes and stuff, the pack it in, pack it out is a common thing. And if you didn't have that bucket there, they wouldn't put stuff in it either. And then the dogs wouldn't take it out. So we can try it. I mean, you can try it, but the bigger the can, the more you haul, and you know, haul a lot of trash. They pick up a lot of trash everywhere as well. But anyway, those are my thoughts.
We have to have the dumpster because when there's a party here, art festival, all that stuff.
I'm just thinking to
Yeah.
block it up, like put it over with the senior one and just have a separate entry into that to where you just
I don't think,
maybe keep the load of that down. But if it's not a problem yet, it's not on the highway, so I don't think it'll be a bigger problem.
If we don't
Right.
submit them in, and then we can just take it out if it sucks, or something's wrong with it.
Yeah.
So, I don't like the top trash can. It looks like something in the city. But
I also don't like the top trash can. I would vote for the middle trash can because it's cheaper and it's coated metal and it's not going to deteriorate in hot Bluff sun.
Yep.
I don't care how long they say they're gonna last. Once they're made out of that plastic, it's not gonna last.
And that's why I wondered if somebody in town, Design Build Bluff or Helgerson or somebody wanted to just build a little cute little thing around it out of wood. It wouldn't take much, build a little thing and then stick a plastic trash can.
So just a point of information in our planning and zoning documents, we have a requirement that trash cans cannot be set out in public. They need to have a little thing around it. And I would guess in this room, all of us, our trash cans are just sitting wherever they're sitting and
Well,
they're not
that's-
enclosed.
That's why I say have somebody build a wooden enclosure.
It's actually a requirement that we would have that.
I
So
wasn't aware of that.
it was one of those things that was put in there that people didn't pick up on, and I didn't either until somebody pointed it out to me that we were in violation.
But you don't have to have a trash can. You just, if you have one sitting out, you have to have it wrapped up.
Well, right. Nobody's saying you have to have a trash can. But I would support a purchase of what Malia recommended for West Park and here.
like the middle one, maybe green with the top.
Yeah, I don't care what color it is,
Black.
but please don't go with plastic because it'll just break.
Well,
And it's
that's-
more money.
I think this stuff is plastic too.
No, it says it's metal cage.
Yeah, it should be like
Plastic.
I know, I think maybe the liner might be plastic, but if you look at, it says heavy duty 9 gauge expanded metal.
Like treated metal. or
I think it's like what they make the picnic tables out of.
So do we have a consensus that it's okay for Malia to go ahead and purchase those? And then
2 here, 1 West Park, 1 here, 1 West Park. How many are you thinking?
two here and one
Depends on
West
what you're
Park.
doing with the dumpster, I'd say, because if the dumpster's there, most people would use that.
the dumpster is close to the kitchen,
Yeah.
so people come out of the kitchen. I mean, you're kind of trying to train people.
Mhm.
A lot of our people are repeat.
So where would you put 2 if you had them?
So one under the, yeah, well, we don't have to discuss that part. One of them would be under the pavilion, and then another one just under the kitchen overhang. So where the picnic tables are, where the grill is,
On that side.
on that side.
So then the dumpster would do this side and the inside one.
Yeah, because the dumpster is very much used when we have rentals and especially graduation season and then the holidays. We'll have multiple rentals per week and it fills up for sure. So
And
I
if it
think
gets
we
to
need
be a
keep-
problem, you can lock it too and unlock it when you're in it.
Yeah.
It's all set.
So-
More.
Is there a consensus on 3 then? So we can move off of
sure.
this one?
With the
Seems
bonnet
like-
lid, with the top.
Do we need a
I
lid?
think without the lid is my preference.
You like them?
I don't,
I'm not dumping your car. That's the best way.
That's true.
Yeah, that's
Only
true.
take tiny things if you have that thing on top. So just set it beside you.
yeah, it's pretty hard to dump a whole kitchen bag of trash in
Yep,
with
that's what I was
a lid.
I like that.
And it keeps people from piling on more and more when there's a stop to the pile.
Yeah.
So, but.
Your choice.
Okay,
Dealer's choice.
I'm gonna go bonnet lid.
Yeah, just you design. You want one at one and on the other.
Then number 16, the railroad ties for replacement.
All right, so still community center. I'd like to take your attention a little closer to the ground, to the railroad ties that are on the south side of the Fire Mesa kitchen. They create a very large space, and that's actually protecting our leach field, our septic tank. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. And so I've received a note from a resident stating that when it was dark, they had a friend that tripped over the railroad ties because they're not illuminated and they are so low to the ground and they are not really a different color than the ground. And so the question was, can we start talking about replacements for these railroad ties or just illuminating them? And so I did some research about driving over a septic tank because I've also chatted with those that installed it and they said, yeah, it should be fine. But then all of the research that I did said, do not let people drive over it. Do not let people park on it. So I'm going with what the research says just to cover ourselves. And so I was looking at some replacement ideas for the railroad ties because to remain a dark sky town, I don't know if we really need to really do more illumination just so that people can see something that is on the ground. And so I got the bright idea of looking into the rocks that we have along the front of the community center. We have those like 3x4 red boulders, and those were done by Holiday Construction. And I went on a field trip this weekend up to Lime Ridge to Holiday Construction's quarry. And they do indeed have 3x4 red and gray rocks available for purchase. They are $15 a ton for the red, $20 a ton for the gray. And what we would look at would be about $200 for them to pick them up and bring them here, and then about another $200 for them to place them. If we were to place them about 7 feet apart, which is about what the ones in the front here are, it'd be about 30 of them that we need. So, and they're about 1.5 tons, so what would I say, about 30? So we're looking at like $1,500 to, well, I guess I didn't get a quote on removing the railroad ties, but looking about $1,500 to $2,000 if you guys are interested in removing those ties and getting those big boulders placed, because that will still keep people from driving there, but then it will kind of open up the space for people to spend more time in it, potentially cornhole, playing catch, the things people like to do at the community center. Other ideas?
Well, I was thinking about, there's reflective strips that you could put on the railroad ties. That might be like kind of, I don't know if we're just worried about people tripping on them.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't help with opening the space up, but you could get the reflective strips that would, I mean, just, they wouldn't emit light, but they reflect light, so you could see that there was something there.
Mm-hmm.
So you could still drive over them, or you could drive into the rocks. I do like the rocks, actually.
I kind of like the idea of the rocks.
What about like benches or something useful?
That's a good idea. They can look into benches.
Because like when you have the music and the art festival, if somebody was doing something in the middle and you circled them and had kids playing in the middle of that or something. Because what I've noticed in the dark too is if the higher it is, the less likely you're gonna fall over it.
Right.
So we all page, and then you hit this low stuff and you can't quite hitch something. But if you hit something high, or if you had, say, white benches or something that would reflect a little light. And that, I was wondering too, on your lighting, what is around the fire kitchen at night? Because it's pretty dark.
It's dark.
So when you do this, I think you need to really look at some down lighting around that and around that little area that's got the big fire pit and all that, just so that that's safer. Since it does get quite dark, and if you can, keep them down, that would light that up. I also wondered about a fence around that septic tank area, like a dog park or something. Put your dogs in there. And,
It becomes the new space where people just take stray dogs.
Yeah.
We always have dogs in the dog park.
Yep, I'm just gonna clean up the dog poop.
My dog just rolling it.
I'd say keep thinking about, if everybody thinks about it, I'd say keep thinking about it, but it's
Yeah.
interesting to know how much those rocks are, but they would need to be pretty high, I would think, in order to not still be a tripping thing.
Yeah, on your way out, take a look at the boulders that we have in front
Yeah.
here, because they're about the same size.
And it's dark, like when you come out, it's dark right there. So
Yeah.
when you come out of this light, you come out there, it's like.
They make great play features also.
They do, they're natural, yeah. But you could put a cool play feature of some rocks in the middle, put some benches around for.
Those railroad ties are a pretty big play feature too, though.
Yeah.
So do we want to just at this point have Malia continue to gather some ideas about what to do and come back to it?
And maybe ask like Hiroko and stuff what they kind of saw in that
Mhm.
space. You know, somebody that has thought about it, Tina, she's thought about the park a lot.
Mhm.
Maybe they have some idea of what could be in there, but like your idea of cornhole and stuff being in the middle, like you can fit around and, you know,
Is there any,
picnic tables inside it, I don't know. Anyway.
are there any others? There's an article that came out today in the Atlantic, the February 2025 Atlantic, that mentions Bluff on the Bears Ears National Monument. And Britt and I were both interviewed for it. We're both in there. I haven't finished reading it, but
We heard anything back from the trib after?
No.
I just, we're down interviewing people.
Yeah, there's more like general, like
Yeah.
for the piece to come maybe, as opposed to this guy had like
Yeah, definitely.
a due date feel like.
so anybody else have another?
I guess it's not really super official yet, but they've asked me to help do a grand opening of the Bluff River Trail at the ADA section down at Sand Island, and Britt's been involved in that too. It'll be sometime this spring probably,
Oh, good.
so
Keep us posted.
I'll keep you updated on that. I think there's a meeting next week to start talking about it with the BLM. BLM's leading it because it's their section that's all done except signage. So somebody was with me the other day and there's like bear's ears on top of the signs, which I completely missed, but they're cool little metal
Nice.
signs.
Okay, it's 5:40.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then I'm turning, anyone opposed? I'm turning off the recorder. Thank you.
While I have you all here, does